This is episode 2 of the First 365 podcast covering MCDP 1-3 Tactics. All right, guys, welcome back for episode 2 of the First 365 podcast. Today, as you heard in the intro, we're covering MCDP 1-3 Tactics. This is MCDP stands for Marine Corps Doctrinal Publication. So this is actually something that you could cite for, like a paper if you're in college. Hell, actually, on my final paper on fighting inner city crime, I used examples from this book in my final paper explaining what would be a good tactical maneuver to give you an advantage and a decisive end goal, and something that the leadership within the police force can develop and implement, which would really help them. So that being said, if you want to get ballsy with it, you can. By the way, this is also a PDF online. So if you want to take a closer look at this, it's only 145 pages, I think. It costs you $0 to type in MCDP 1-3 Tactics into the search bar on Google, and you can find the PDF of it. It's really not that hard. So if it is something you're interested in, definitely do it. Now, a lot of people are going to be sitting here wondering, Ryan, why in the hell are you talking about tactics and battlefield tactics when... most of us, this is not a military podcast. Well, good question. So when I was preparing to go to TBS and OCS, I wanted to be as far ahead on the material as I possibly could be to demonstrate, like, hey, look, I'm here. I know my shit. I'm ready to get with it. I'm ready to get some. This is why I deserve X role that I'm requesting. X MOS. So, which is military occupational specialty. Essentially your job within the military. So I wanted to show up on my shit and be ready to go with it. Currently right now, this is just a book that I've read. Now the reason that this is a good book to read is because I have talked to a lot of combat leaders. I talked to a guy that was a captain that recommended the book, a staff sergeant recommended the book, and I think there was a gunnery sergeant too. A lot of guys that definitely knew their shit, that were in the Marine Corps, and they said, hey, this book, whether you do or don't go to OCS or TBS, this book is still going to be really, really useful and really, really valuable within life. Because, and this is what all of them said, and I just kept hearing it being echoed over and over again. Combat is life under a magnifying glass. So any weaknesses, any problems, any strengths, any chinks in your armor, so to speak, they're all going to be magnified within combat. So this is kind of like for those of you who play video games, right? There's, on Black Ops and whatnot, on the first-person shooter games, there's recruit, and there's hardened, and then there's veteran level, right? This is essentially taking a look at the mistakes that you made at the veteran level and being like, okay, here's how I apply that, and here's how I can absolutely crush it at I don't want to say a lower level, because I'm not saying life is a lower level than combat, but you are less likely to be as exploited in such an aggressive fashion as you would be in combat as you would be in life. So, and again, girls putting on their makeup in the mirror, right? A lot of girls have those mirrors that are able to amplify your skin and get you to show those really tiny spots on your skin. And so you can do a really, really good, almost flawless job. And then you can say, okay, here, it looks so much better now. This is kind of the same thing. We're studying these proven tactics to see what's in them and see what we can draw from it so we can improve ourselves and be better prepared for life. So that being said, let's get right into it. So the book opens up. The first couple of pages are just, the opening pages with the, this book is written by Department of the Navy, Headquarters, United States Marine Corps, all that good stuff, etc., etc. Finally goes into what would be the intro, and it's actually just written Foreword, which is perfect. I absolutely love it. And this book is so straight to the point, and there's very little jargon of what what someone just put in there just because they wanted their ego to be shown. It is very, I honestly, I can't imagine the level of humility that these guys had to have writing this book. Honestly, very impressive. And keep in mind, this book was published July 30th, 1997. I was born in 1987. That's 24 years ago. So it's a long while ago. There's not currently, to the best of my knowledge, a newer version of this book. However, I'm sure there will be at some point. But a lot of these, the reason I say it is because these are really good reasons. These are really good tactics. And, why reinvent the wheel? Why, try to expand on something that you don't need to when it has all the information that you need? And then also a lot of people that they're going to be pulling quotes from in here, and a lot of the ideas and examples are going to be things before the most current war in Iraq and Afghanistan. There's going to be some Gulf War examples. There's going to be some Vietnam examples. There's going to be some examples from World War I and World War II, and a lot of quotes from those individuals that fought in those wars too. So that's the reason I say that. So that being said, forward. This publication is about winning in combat. The first sentence in the book. This publication is about winning in combat. That's perfect. It's explaining everything you need to know right there, straight up. There's no more, I would like to thank X so-and-so for making a wonderful donation to the book. No. This publication is about winning in combat. It's perfect. Winning requires many things: excellence in techniques and appreciation in the enemy, exemplary leadership, battlefield judgment, and focused combat power. That is a lot to unload right there. Winning requires many things. Think about this. Excellence in techniques. Think about what that means to you. What that means to me is honestly just having and critiquing yourself and being honest with yourself about what's going on in terms of your techniques and being as proficient as possible. An appreciation of the enemy. That is a huge thing that has been showed so many times throughout history, because there's countless examples that we'll get into. But military leaders did not have an appreciation for the enemy. Now, the enemy might have been lesser than them, and that's for sure. And that's very, very apparent in a lot of situations. But the enemy was still able to wreak havoc and decimate the opponent who underestimated them. So that's a big thing in history. And just making sure that you are still aware of, hey, I'm sure I can still crush this enemy, but that does not mean I'm not going to have a lack of appreciation for what they're capable of. Because as soon as you stop caring about and having appreciation for the capabilities of the enemy, or the capabilities of, maybe the opponent in the situation that you're in, once you stop caring about that, you become complacent. And when you become complacent, bad things happen, because the world is still going on around you and you're not able to keep up with the demands. And that's not a good thing. It's not a good position to be in. As excellence in techniques and appreciation of the enemy, exemplary leadership, obviously just extreme ownership and being a quality leader. There's two really good books that might help you with this. Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. Dichotomy of Leadership, again by Jocko Willink. Really good books. Battlefield Judgment. I'm going to leave that up to interpretation for you, because I think that can mean a lot of different things to different people. But to me, battlefield judgment means, hey, I need to be able to make quality, sound decisions under pressure and under stress. That's what I think it means. And we'll get more into it when we get into the book. We're only going to read this forward for today, because honestly, if we read this whole thing at once, it would probably be like a 4 or 5 hour podcast. We wouldn't be able to retain anybody. So, battlefield judgment and focused combat power. There's a very good quote that we'll probably look at more later on in here, but essentially focused combat power. So having all of your pieces together and actually focused on a goal instead of everything just beating to the march of its own drum. So a really good example of this in the corporate world would be, say I, Ryan, am running Division A of a company, and there's Division B that is doing something else that is still benefiting the overall goal, the overall mission of the company, right? So if I am just marching the beat of my own drum and I don't care about what Division B is doing, and Division B can potentially have something or do something for me that might help me or help my system improve, yeah, I'm going to see what the ability is and what the capabilities are. Because if we can have focused combat power where I can help Division B and Division B can turn around and help me run Division A, and we can both benefit each other in efficiency, absolutely, that's something I'm going to look into. Because on the battlefield, this is made very apparent. If infantry is doing their own thing and artillery is doing their own thing and air power and air assets are doing their own thing, nothing's ever going to get done. Everything needs to be in synchronization, and everything needs to be able to essentially just be helping each other, right? Focus combat power. That's what that is. On with the book here. And focus combat power. Yet these factors by themselves do not ensure success in battle. Many armies, both winners and losers, have possessed many or all of these attributes. When we examine closely the differences between victor and vanquished, we draw one conclusion. Success went to the armies whose leaders, senior and junior, could best focus their efforts, their skills, and their resources toward a decisive end. Decisive end is going to be something that we are going to hammer continuously throughout, not even just this forward, but also in the book quite a bit too. Giving some people a simple mission and saying, hey, here's what you need to do, and get it done. And honestly, I mean, like, just walking into a room, if I have a team that I need to brief, and I have a team that I need to, get motivated for a situation or mission or whatever that is, I'm going to say, gentlemen, here's what we have. Here's the mission. We're going to do it better than anyone's ever done it before, and here's how we're going to do it, period. Giving people that simple mission with a decisive end goal, that is going to be very, very helpful. And it's said in here, that is going to help. That's helped immensely in a lot of different situations. So, effectively lead them and combine them toward a decisive end. Their success arose not merely from excellence in techniques, procedures, and material, but from their leaders' abilities to uniquely and effectively combine them. Winning in combat depends upon tactical leaders who can think creatively and act decisively. I think that last sentence in there is basically just saying, get ready for mayhem. Just be ready for it. And there's another sentence in here that I love later on that says the exact same thing in a different way. Onward with the book. This book pertains equally to all Marine leaders, whether their duties entail combat service support, or combat arms. It applies to the Marine Air Ground Task Force commander, as well as the squadron commander and the fire team leader. All Marines face tactical decisions in battle, regardless of their roles. So that's everything that you just heard there. Let me translate that as best I can understand from Marine jargon. Those are all different positions: that combat service support, direct combat arms. Those are all the big different divisions within the Marine Corps. So everyone has a job, right? And everyone's job is focused on eventually increasing the essentially giving the Marine Corps the most lethal stance that they can give it. So logistics guys are going to be in charge of, hey, taking care of making sure everything gets to the combat zone, and the guys or supply whatever it is. And eventually everything is going to be focused around giving the Marine Corps the most lethal stance possible. So everything covered in there, everything that we just talked about, service support, direct combat arms, everything, those are the big major divisions. And then also it applies to the Marine Air Ground Task Force commander, as well as the squadron commander and the fire team leader. So essentially you could be at the very tippy top of the chain here. You could be the commandant of the Marine Corps, which is the top officer of the Marine Corps, making all the decisions on what the Marine Corps is going to do. This applies to him, as well as it applies to the fire team leader, which would be a lower enlisted member, right? So that's someone that's still going to be leading, troops into combat. So it applies to the guy at the very top of the chain, as well as the guys at the very bottom of the chain. So everyone in between still, again, it's very valuable to everybody. All Marines face tactical decisions in battle, regardless of their roles. Tactical leaders must develop and hone their warfighting skills through study and practice. This publication serves as a guide for that professional development. It addresses the theory of tactics and its application in a chaotic and uncertain environment. Again, that last sentence there, get ready for mayhem. Because, and again, it is said in here before, being creative and having the ability to stand there, think on your feet, be creative, and come up with a new plan and a new plan of action to maybe get somebody out of a bad position, maybe effectively reposition your machine gunners, whatever that is. Having the ability to examine your plan, constantly be able to modify it, and still effectively provide quality leadership to your troops and effectively show everyone, hey, this is what we need to be doing. And then giving them that decisive end goal throughout the entire rank structure is extremely important in its application in a chaotic and uncertain environment. The concepts and ideas within this publication are battle-tested. Throughout our history, one of the most important reasons for the success of the United States Marine Corps has been the military skill of our leaders at every level of command. It's exactly what I just said. Through their tactical skill and battlefield judgment, our commanders achieve tactical and operational advantage at a decisive time and place. That is a very important thing. That's a very important thing right there. Achieve a tactical and operational advantage at a decisive time and place. Making sure that you make the right move at the right place at the right time is absolutely critical in most any situation, especially in combat. Because there can be a lot of different situations. We don't need to go into crazy examples for it. But the bottom line is making sure that you make the right decision at the right time to achieve the best possible outcome is going to be one of the most important things. And I know a lot of these things seem kind of simple, to be honest with you. When you break it down, this is very simple information. But humans have a tendency to cause things and try to complicate things. We have this tendency to complicate things, to try to, introduce our little bit, or, try to help the situation in some way and contribute what we can to the conversation, what we can to the mission. And honestly, at some point, that just becomes just gargle and, things that we don't need. This book is written very simplistically and very straight front and very forward. And I think that's very important for the reader here to to simplify things and not try to complicate things and not try to just make things as complicated as possible and, try to give everyone all this information. There's an example by Jocko Willink, the guy that, wrote those books that I recommended. And he said, there was one of the things when he became a commander of a SEAL team. And he said his senior enlisted members were giving their team, I believe it was their platoon, they're giving them a mission. I think it was just a shakedown patrol, which is essentially just like, going like maybe a mile in the woods, testing out your gear, making sure that everything is, ready to go, is cinched down tight, all that good stuff. Just make sure everything is there. And he said that they were giving him a PowerPoint that was like 60 pages. It's 60 pages of like what to do if you contact fire, what to do if, like going over hand and arm signals again, like basic things all over again, and just giving them so much information, like a 2-hour brief for like a half mile or a mile walk in the woods. Just a simple shakeout patrol. Just testing gear, giving them a 2-hour brief for that is not needed at all, right? So simplifying that, and he said it got him down to 12 pages for the PowerPoint. And when his senior enlisted members went in and gave that PowerPoint, A, they thought they were going to lose their jobs because they weren't giving them the full scope of everything that was going on. And then B, when the platoon saw the last page of the slide, they're like, wait, that's it? Like, that's it? And they're like, yep, that's it. And they're like, wow, okay. Now, what do you think that caused the enlisted members to do, right? They said, oh, hey, I really need to be listening to this. Instead of trying to retain all the 60 pages of information, I need to just retain these 12 pages that are giving me, this simple information that they're giving me. Now, what does that do for if you're, let's say, in a leadership role and you're a management role, right? You give somebody a simple mission. You lay out the simple things that they need to know and the simple things they need to do, and you don't go crazy into detail, complicating it. just eating your ego and giving them what they need without, trying to interject as much, junk as you possibly can, it's going to make it a lot simpler for them to digest. It's going to make it a lot simpler, and it's going to make it a lot more efficient and effective as well, honestly. So, and that is exactly how this book is written, which again goes back to the thing I talked about at the beginning. The ability for it was a group of writers that wrote this book. The ability for all of these leaders to come together and say, hey, yeah, and have the humility to say, hey, my 3 sentences here are absolute shit. Maybe we can put that down to a sentence or take it out altogether because it's not needed for what these leaders need to know. That is absolutely incredible. And the book is only 145 pages. And there's diagrams in here. There's graphs. There's different pages with illustrations of events and things that went on. And it's all just very short, simple, to the point, things that you need to know, which I think is amazing. And that's a big thing. It's a big overarching theme that we can take from this text. Back to the book here. This publication is a revision of Fleet Marine Force Manual 1-3 Tactics of 1991 and supersedes it. Marine Corps Doctrinal Publication MCDP 1-3 fully retains the spirit, scope, and basic concepts of its predecessor. MCDP 1-3 further develops and refines some of these concepts. In particular, a new chapter has been added on exploiting success and finishing, which is honestly, in my opinion, a great chapter. And it's something that people building on your success is essentially the big concept of, and then finishing with that, building the momentum. And some of the original material has been reorganized and expanded. Great. Tactics is in consonance with MCDP 1 Warfighting, which is a great book. We might cover that on the podcast as well. And the other Marine warfighting publications. Presuming an understanding of maneuver warfare, MCDP 1-3 applies it specifically to the tactical level of war. Like MCDP 1, which is warfighting, it is not perspective, but descriptive, providing guidance in the form of concepts and ideas. This publication establishes the Marine Corps' philosophy for waging and winning battles. Absolutely incredible right there. Absolutely incredible. So what did those last two paragraphs, what do they mean, right? So translating from the jargon, essentially we have this book. So there was the predecessor in 1991. This is an expanded and essentially better version. And the only reason, but the cool thing is they didn't just add a volume or something just because they're oh, we have learned 3 things in warfare, we've learned 3 things in tactics. We need to make a new book. No, they said, hey, this book does need an update. We do need a new chapter of this book. And here's how we're going to do it. There we go. Very simple, very to the point. And keep in mind, it's been 24 years and there hasn't been another one out yet, which is honestly great because that means, hey, tactics are working. The Marine Corps is being effective. Fantastic. Now, so this is the updated version, essentially. And this is the second chapter here, the second paragraph, sorry. It just talks about warfighting and the other publications and essentially how this one plays into those. So we might cover those other ones on the podcast. I think this is honestly one of the best publications by the Marine Corps because it's very solid and it's very to the point, and it relates a lot to life and the things that you need to know in life, which are great. We'll go over the chapters here very quickly, and then we'll wrap it up for today. Chapter 1, Understanding Tactics. Chapter 2, Achieving a Decision. Chapter 3, Gaining Advantage. Chapter 4, Being Faster. Chapter 5, Adapting. Chapter 6, Cooperating. Chapter 7, Exploiting Success and Finishing. That's the new chapter that's been added. And then Chapter 8, finally, Making It Happen. Honestly, it's awesome, in my opinion. And then it goes to Chapter 1. And that's where we will wrap it up today. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the podcast today. I know it's a bit of a shorter one, but again, I didn't want to make it a 4-hour podcast. And again, think about just like they said, right? Giving you a simple piece of information, talking about these things, and giving you this smaller piece instead of having you guys try to listen to the 60-page, PowerPoint slideshow on a half-mile shakeout patrol. This is the 12-page version, right? This is almost like the Cliff Notes version. So this is everything from the foreword. And with that being said, signing out for today. Get it done, guys. Take care.